I had a grandfather who grew food, not only for the family, but for the community. And I think he was the first food banker I knew. I didn't know the term then. When we went to help a family, these were people that were not strangers to us. We went to school with them, went to church with them. So it was a most natural thing, I think, for us to pull up with some corn and watermelons and tomatoes and squash, and the family would come out and almost shop off the truck, except it was free. And I think it was the first time that I realized that there was enough for everybody. And I think that's the underlying belief that I have today, even 28 years after starting the food bank, that there is enough, that God provides all we need, and it's a matter of sharing that surplus. When I was just beginning my work and I had come to Atlanta, I used to go down to the King Center. That was a time of discernment. I was thinking, what do I do with my life? And I used to circumvent the grave, saying, what do I do with my life? I was called, but I didn't know for what. And I would ask, the question I would ask myself is, what am I willing to die for? What am I willing to give my life for? And I found that. And that's what I've devoted my life to. But the question comes, as you're in the work, is not what you're willing to die for. What are you willing to live for? I really wanted to live out my values. I wanted to, in my day-to-day life, reflect what I believed. And it had always been a faith journey for me. So I had met my wife-to-be, and we started a community here in Atlanta, an interfaith community. And we worked with the homeless and the mentally ill. We started a number of businesses, and we lived in that community for 10 years. And that was the basis of working in community, of then reaching out to community. I started in a downtown Episcopal Church, working in the first community kitchen for the homeless. This is 1975. We were feeding, 400 or 500 people a day in one church, in one parish hall. I think I learned the power of food and the power of the table to bring people to the table very early in my ministry work. And I remember one day having a young woman with her 2 children who was homeless come down for counseling after eating their meal. And I was feeling very proud of myself that I was able to help her with transportation and a place to stay and a little bit of cash to handle the emergency, and certainly able to feed the family. And in the middle of all my helping and all my feeling proud of myself, she stopped me right in the middle of my sentence. And she says, "Reverend Bolling, I know where all that stuff is, and I know where I can get my next meal." She said, "What I need is somebody to be with. Somebody that will listen to my story. Somebody that will know me and know my situation and will take the time to be with me." And I realized then, one, the power of food to bring her to the table, but the power of food to have that encounter and then us be together, not eating, not doing anything, but listening to each other. That I treated her with dignity, that I treated her as an equal and someone that deserved my respect and my support. Change comes through relationships and accountable relationships. So my motivation was to get other congregations and other people in this work of feeding the hungry. I thought the best way to do that is if I can promise to get them food and help them start their program, then maybe they would begin. And in fact, we did get some other congregations in that work. The food bank started out with 2 volunteers. We started the first year distributing less than 50,000 pounds. The food bank now has almost 100 full-time staff professionals. But we've gotten people involved from every sector, from the public sector, from the faith community, from the business community. certainly from the social and civic organizations. We'd be the equivalent of a $45 million distribution business. I've got almost a dozen trucks out on the road every day, 800 agencies shopping, 1,000 volunteers coming in. We really are a community center with many different tools and many different assets to work with. We have today almost 200,000 square feet of warehouse space. Where we started the first year distributing less than 50,000 pounds for the year, I do that a day now. I started out with 35 agencies. We now have over 835 agencies. We have Atlanta in our name, but we really are the North Georgia Food Bank, and serving 38 North Georgia counties. It's a model that can be replicated. We centralize the acquisition, decentralize the distribution. We're very clear on what the rules are in handling food and money and relationships to the community. So it's a model that works. One of the great frustrations, I think, is that most Americans don't know who the hungry are. If you would ask a person on the street, well, who's the hungry? Most often they would say, well, the homeless. They must be hungry. That's maybe 5% of who we feed. The hungry, the majority of them, have a job. They're working. Many of them are working 2 jobs. Today, they don't have health care. Energy prices are skyrocketing, just to put gas in the car to get to work. Housing prices and credit prices. When you meet folks, they're folks like you grew up with. They're folks like somebody in your family. They're working hard. They're trying hard. Their first option is not to go ask a stranger for help. It's to help themselves. So one of the great blessings in this work is to work shoulder and shoulder with those people. Those are the folks I grew up with. Those are the people that I work with. And those are the people I serve.
In a world like ours, it's so easy to be frustrated and negative, categorizing people who are in hurting, painful situations. Bill doesn't do that. Bill brings a sense of optimism, seeing that we can care for people, help people, change the lives of others. There's a spiritual reality to that, and that reality is transcendent. It's one of the gifts that Bill really brings, not only to his position, but he carries it in his very person. He is a deeply compassionate person in all the emphasis that you would want. It's what we want people to have in today's world.
We always think of every program, one, in relation to what is your mission, to engage, educate, and empower the community to fight hunger. If it's not engaging, educating, and empowering, it doesn't fit for us. And 2, you look at a program and say, what constituency out there cares about this issue? We have a wonderful program called Kids in Need, where we're actually distributing school supplies. But you might ask, why would we be doing school supplies in a food bank? I want a relationship with principals, teachers, and counselors. We go there to do Hunger 101. We draw our volunteers from young people. We can do food drives there. We ask them to come as a school to our hunger walk and participate. It involves PTAs. It involves parents. So that's a very important constituency. And we find the same kids who never got a new backpack, never had a new box of crayons, come from the same families that may not be making a living wage. We have built an educational program called Hunger 101, where not only do you come and volunteer, but you learn where does this food come from, where is it going, why are people hungry, and particularly as young people, what can I do about it? We've created community gardens. We've built over 150 gardens in the Atlanta area, not so much to produce food, but to build community. Because in a garden, they're always intergenerational. It's the older folks who remember how to garden and the young ones who just thinks it's magic when things grow. But in a garden, you can teach land use, you can teach organic, you can teach water use, which is so important today. We have a relationship with the hospitality community. We created a program called Atlanta's Table, where we pick up prepared food from restaurants and caterers and hotels. Now, that's an expensive way to handle food, but it's a great way to have a relationship with the leading industry in the city.
We do very large banquets here in the hotel. We probably do, upwards of 2,000 people per day. And then what we'll do is we'll take the leftover products that we have and we'll package them up in the aluminum containers that they provide for us, and we'll cover them and label them and date them. And basically, when we have enough product in the freezer, we'll call them up for a pickup, and generally we'll do that maybe once every couple of weeks. And then they'll come and pick up the product and give us some new pans, and we just kind of keep the cycle going. For us, it's a pleasure to be able to know we're doing something good for the community, and giving product that we might not be able to use to somebody that really enjoys it.
Back in '79, this was a new idea. It really went against the status quo in the sense that there were liability issues. My gosh, what happens if somebody gets sick? The way we solved that is got a law passed. I got the Good Samaritan bill passed in Georgia. It took me a year and a half to release those donors of liability, to say it's okay, we'll take that responsibility. And we'll do everything we can to judiciously handle the food, but we'll also trust that God will take care of us in this work and in this ministry. So we had to figure out really a business proposition for the food industry, manufacturers, wholesalers, retailers, and the community. It had to make business sense to donate. There will always be food that is unmarketable for one reason or another. It's the wrong color, the wrong size, it's an overfill, it's an underfill, they've changed the packaging, it's out of date. There are a multitude of issues that one addresses when you're working with the food industry. Every company is different, so you've really got to approach them and learn what their issues are, what their concerns are, and what they need out of the transaction. And I think that's really been the key to our success, is that we've made it a win-win. I think it's very important if we're called to this kind of work. It's tough work. It never ends. We distribute to community-based organizations, to families just like my family, who help other families. And I think it's through those relationships that transformation happens. That's how change happens. It's not through the food itself. It's through using food as a vehicle, as a tool, so that you're sharing what is most essential in your life. Everybody needs to eat, and everybody deserves to eat. And there's plenty for everybody. We've taken the stuff of life, in this case food, and people, and organizations, and we have made it better. It's as simple as that. And I think wherever we are, whatever station of life we are, we often put it off and say, well, wait until I get rich, or wait until I have some power, or wait until I get in a certain circle of friends, and then I'll go out and make a difference. The opportunity is to make a difference wherever we are, to grow where we're planted, to take whatever the stuff of life is. In my case, it was food, but it could be any commodity. It could be any relationship. It could be a part of where we work or where we worship. But to take that and leverage it, to make it better. And that's, I think, what we've done. We've made a better community.